When the world's most influential space entrepreneur makes a statement like this, it's not just a warning, it's a wake-up call. China's space program isn't just catching up, it's redefining the race with ambitions that stretch from the moon to Mars. Beijing is positioning itself as not just a participant in the space race, but to beat every other nation. But how? How did China's space program evolve so rapidly, and more importantly, what does this mean for the rest of the world? This isn't just about exploration, it's about power, it's about control of the final frontier, and as we'll reveal, the stakes couldn't be higher. When we think about space exploration, the first things that come to mind are probably NASA and SpaceX, absolute juggernauts in aerospace exploration. However, there is another player quickly rising on the scene: China. They're not just dipping their toes into space exploration, but they're going all in with a clear strategic vision that could reshape the future of humans in space. Their ambitions revolve around three main objectives, and these objectives aren't just pie-in-the-sky dreams but carefully planned, which China has already set in motion. Let's have a look. The first objective is heavy launch capabilities. China is focusing on increasing their Long March series rockets, improving their ability to carry larger payloads farther into space. The cornerstone of this effort is the Long March 5th rocket, which is equipped with powerful YF-100 engines in its core stage and boosters. Compared with a typical car that can produce up to 300 horsepower, the YF-100 rocket engine generates 270,000 pounds of thrust, approximately 36 million horsepower. Yes, you heard that right, 36 million horsepower. However, the engineers are already working on the Long March 9th, a next-generation heavy-lift rocket with more powerful engines. Different prototypes are identified, but the main one is the CZ-9 with 4 liquid fuel boosters and a capacity of 140 tons. Imagine the savings you would have if you reduced the number of launches from 3 to 2 for the same payloads. And it doesn't stop there. The LM-9 might include reusable rocket stages, which will make China's space program much more sustainable and cost-effective. This has already been achieved by SpaceX, so most likely, it will be the same concept. But it's not just about launching rockets. The real game-changer lies in their next space transformation system, which aims to transform the emptiness of space into a bustling hub of activity. It includes the necessary infrastructure like refueling stations, cargo transport, and even factories that enable humans and robots to operate in space. The engineers are focusing on technologies that will make ships fly autonomously, perform self-docking, repair satellites in orbit, and establish deep space communication networks. And then there's the crown jewel of the program, the Tiangong Space Station. The China Manned Space Agency sent the station's modules into orbit, and by late 2022, Tiangong became fully operational. This space station is just the beginning, and similar to the International Space Station, Tiangong will also be used for scientific research. But make no mistake, Tiangong isn't just a research facility. It's the springboard for China's future space conquests, setting the stage for a new era of exploration. What could these adventures be? For the moment, lunar and Mars exploration is under the scope, but who knows how soon it will include other planets or even other solar systems. Ultimately, all of this has the main focus of constructing space stations or even habitats on the Moon or Mars, which will become the backbone support for long-term human missions beyond Earth. But what does all of this mean? Look, China isn't just playing catch-up, they're planning to overtake the current leaders, aiming for a future where they dictate the terms of space exploration. However, they aren't the only ones. SpaceX's performance has been incredible so far, and as of now, there is no way China is going to catch up to them, right? Perhaps this race is a little closer than it seems. At first glance, this might seem like a new Cold War-style space race, but the reality is far more complex and potentially more dangerous. So far, SpaceX has really shown its strength when it comes to launching rockets. In 2023 alone, they managed to launch 98 rockets, delivering a staggering 1,195 tons of payload into orbit. It's no wonder they're the global leader, making headlines as the company that's taking over space. Meanwhile, China has had a solid year too, but with 67 launches, they're still trailing behind SpaceX in this area, though the plan is to raise that number to over 100 in 2024, forcing Elon Musk to step up his game to keep up. One of the main reasons behind these impressive numbers for SpaceX is their ability to launch rockets far more efficiently than their competitors. With launch prices as low as $3,000 per kilogram, SpaceX dominates the industry, undercutting other providers by a hefty margin, anywhere from $7,000 to $177,000 per kilogram. To put this into perspective, NASA's old space shuttle program cost around $54,000 per kilogram of payload, and even their more recent space launch system comes in at about $20,000 per kilogram. Other commercial companies like Arianespace and Russia's Roscosmos charge between $10,000 and $20,000 per kilogram. With such competitive pricing, it's no surprise that SpaceX has become the go-to provider for commercial satellite operators, research institutions, and even other governments. But what exactly allows SpaceX to offer such low prices? It all comes down to their reusable technology, especially with Starship, which is designed to be fully reusable. This means they can use the same rocket multiple times, drastically cutting down the cost per launch. On the flip side, China is also working on reusable technology, but they're not stopping there. They're investing heavily in more than just rockets. They're pushing forward with systemic space missions, including lunar and Mars exploration, deep space communication, and maintaining their permanent space station, Tiangong. While SpaceX focuses on efficiency, China is broadening its reach across the entire spectrum of space exploration. Furthermore, China's space program, run by the China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation, benefits from being state-operated. Imagine bypassing all the bureaucratic hurdles that private companies often face and instead being able to focus entirely on what really matters. This setup gives China's space program direct access to national resources like launch sites, government funding, and political support, making their operations run much more smoothly. A great example of this is how they can easily utilize national infrastructure for transporting rockets and other components, tap into military resources and technology, and coordinate with other state-run institutions without the usual red tape. Unlike SpaceX, which can be influenced at any time by market dynamics and investor expectations like any other private company that runs on profit, the Chinese space program operates under the Chinese government, focusing on its goals without the pressure of money. This enables them to carry on with their lunar base projects, Mars exploration, and further development of their space station, even though they might not be profitable at all in the short run. Furthermore, the Chinese government's control over its space program allows for better alignment with national interests. They can prioritize space exploration in a way that integrates seamlessly with economic, military, and technological goals. However, this kind of control can sometimes create challenges, especially for scientists. History has shown that while scientists may focus on advancing knowledge for the sake of discovery, the government may be more concerned with how that knowledge can be used for security purposes. And that's when all of this becomes part of the geopolitical tensions around the globe. SpaceX works very closely with the U.S. military and has become a critical partner. The Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets have been used to launch many military satellites, GPS satellites, and probably many more secret assets. What really made the U.S. further interested in SpaceX is Starlink. This technology enhances drone strike operations, reconnaissance, cyber operations, and secure communication. This has been a big concern for China as they see these partnerships as potential threats to their national security and interests. They are mainly concerned about the widespread deployment of Starlink satellites and their potential to interfere with China's own satellite networks. What makes the situation even worse is that the high number of satellites risks physical collisions. For example, in 2021, China reported that its Tiangong space station had to perform evasive maneuvers to avoid potential collisions with Starlink satellites on 2 separate occasions. When some critical and very expensive assets are threatened, precautionary measures are necessary. Could China weaponize its space program and become the ultimate military advantage? China's space program is controlled by the government and deeply connected with the People's Liberation Army, PLA. Whenever new possibilities arise, the PLA begins weaponizing them for further military dominance. Similar to the U.S. military with the SpaceX satellites, Chinese satellites are designed for intelligence gathering, secure communication, and even potential military operations. These satellites already provide real-time data, like an eye beyond the sky. The possibility of China using its space technology for military purposes is not just high, it is almost a certainty. Even though China is officially bound by the Outer Space Treaty of 1967, which bans weapons in space, and they have said they support it, without full transparency, it's hard to know what they are really putting up there. Unlike the International Space Station, which is shared by multiple countries, China's station is more like its own private ship. There is talk that it could even have anti-satellite weapons capable of taking out other satellites. If that happens, it could cause huge problems for nations that rely on satellites for communication and navigation. Imagine if China disabled GPS satellites, it would make it difficult for their adversaries to operate drones, guide missiles, or even navigate aircraft. By mixing military capabilities into their space plans, China's space program could become a powerful way to project influence not just on Earth but far beyond. However, in today's world, economic power is just as important as military might. China's huge investment in space isn't just for show, they're aiming for serious economic gains. One of the most game-changing opportunities is extraterrestrial mining. If China could mine precious metals like platinum or rare earth elements from the moon, it would give them a massive economic advantage. Another bold idea is space-based solar power stations, which could revolutionize the energy market with near-limitless clean energy beamed back to Earth. Leading the way in space-based resources and energy would give China an incredible economic boost, shifting global power dynamics. China's rapid progress in space exploration is impressive, and it all started with a mix of global influences. In the early days, China heavily relied on Soviet rocket designs and missile technology, which laid the groundwork for their space ambitions. Things really took off when Chen Shueisen joined the program, bringing invaluable knowledge in aeronautics and rocket science. He played a key role in launching China's first satellite, Dongfang-Hong-1, in 1970. China adapted and improved on existing technology, eventually achieving major milestones like landing the Chang'e 3 rover on the Moon in 2013, becoming the first country to land a rover on the far side of the Moon in 2019, and bringing lunar samples back to Earth. In 2024, Chang'e 6 returned with samples from the Moon's far side. By 2030, China plans to send astronauts to the Moon and work on the International Lunar Research Station with Russian counterparts. They're also aiming to bring back samples from Mars and explore deeper into space over the next 10 to 15 years. China's rapid progress in space exploration signals to the world that they are here to stay, and they're not slowing down, thanks to the foundations laid by other nations.